Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Aspire Sports Show. I'm your host, Tyler, and I'm joined here by my guest, Ben, a very good friend of mine, very good friend of the show. Today starts a new day for the Aspire Sports Show. We're going to start a morning show. Every single morning, you're going to wake up, you're going to hear our beautiful voices. We're going to talk sports. This is a sports show. So right now, we're obviously going to focus on football because it's the football season. But we're also going to talk about basketball, any other breaking news in the sports industry, baseball, whatever it may be, golf. So we're going to talk about it all. And that's the plan going forward. A show every single day. There will be new guests on the show. So it's very exciting. We're very excited. So the first guest of the day, of the show, is going to be Ben. So how you doing, Ben? And thanks for coming on, buddy. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I'm doing great. It's always a good time when I get to talk football. So ready for this NFL season to get started.
For sure, and especially because we'll be talking about some Steelers as well, some Steelers football.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to get into the big topic today, breaking news. Well, not so much breaking because we knew he was going to report after reports came out that his whole Instagram story and then news broke that he was coming back. But Aaron Rodgers officially back at camp for the Green Bay Packers. So I was looking at the contract, right? And it looks like his 2023 season is voided. And then, I don't know if he's going to be with the team next year or they have to trade him. I know that they can't franchise, use any kind of tags on him or anything. So I don't know exactly what the case is. Maybe you know everything else. But with that being said, I mean, it was kind of obvious due to the last Dance post, and if people out there weren't quite sure what that meant, basically it's the last year with Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen. They were upset with management, how they're handling the situation, basically not firing, just not bringing back Phil Jackson, so Jordan wanted out, so yada, yada, yada. They just weren't happy with management, but it looked like they're coming back for one last year, and that's what's going on now, him and Devontae Adams. So with that being said, where do you think Aaron Rodgers goes next year? Do you think he retires, plays for somebody else? What do you think happens?
I'd like to think he's going to play still, considering that he's still playing at a fantastic level. A lot of that's going to depend on how some of these younger quarterbacks play this year. We're going to get to really see, in Miami, how Tua's going to be and how well are these second guys going to step up. A lot of these guys have big years coming, and they're going to have to show a lot for their NFL team. But I look at teams like Washington. They got Fitzpatrick this year. They have a great defense, good weapons around there. Antonio Gibson's a good football player. They could be in position to go out and get Aaron Rodgers. Carson Wentz is going to be a huge question mark for Indianapolis this year. They're a team that I feel like if they do end up, looking at quarterbacks next year and land Rodgers, they could potentially get Devontae Adams at receiver with him too. Beautiful
True.
pairing there. But I mean, you got to look at the Steelers cap situation next year. And Roethlisberger, is hanging it up, is done playing. The Steelers are going to have some money to throw around there. It's going to be interesting for sure. Do you see them making a move, Colbert making a move like that? Who knows? But a lot of it's really going to depend on some of the play of these quarterbacks. And I don't know. My favorite right now is definitely Washington. Like I said,
That'd be awesome.
Pretty good football team all around. They got good weapons, and they plug Aaron Rodgers, and they're going to be contender.
Agree with that. No, that. I wasn't even thinking Washington. Honestly, I was thinking Denver because that's a team right now. You got quarterback situation with Drew Lock. Does he actually improve this season? Probably not, but that would be another team. And also, like you did say, the Colts. Big year for Carson Wentz. What happens with Carson Wentz? You could have Devontae Adams go there as well. So all possibilities. It's going to be very exciting. But as you said, I hope he doesn't retire. I doubt he retires, especially if he has another good season like he has for the past 2 years. I doubt he retires. So it'll be interesting for sure. So let's talk about another quarterback here where it was the other day, Monday. The Texans came out openly are trading Deshaun Watson. So I don't think it was really news, because there was talks about him possibly going to Philadelphia. It was one of the teams that were interested. But here's my situation with the Texans is that they want 3 first-round draft picks. if Deshaun Watson didn't have the baggage that he had, absolutely is he worth that 100%. But with them having absolutely no leverage with his current legal actions, whatever's going to happen with him, his legal, whatever his sexual, I don't even know what the hell it is,
He's like 20
harassment.
different accusations
Yes,
against
the
him.
accusations. So how are they going to be able to move him? And do you see them moving him if these charges aren't dropped? Do you see a team taking a chance on them? And if so, I would assume the price is much lower than what they're asking for, but do you think that they would want to move him with the lower price?
Yeah, I personally think he stays on the roster this year. Whether he plays or not is still to be questioned. They're not going to get what they want for him with all these accusations going around. It's just no team's going to take a chance on that.
No.
So, I mean, this is really mind-boggling because I think they could, I mean, like in a year or so, if nothing's resolved or it's not looking good, they might just cut him, and his
Right.
future could just be in question in general, which would be terrible because he's such a good football player.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I mean, they are not going to move him because he's that good to where like they're going to demand so much.
Right.
So I think he stays on the roster this year. You just got to let this legal situation play out and go from there. NFL teams are not going to be just throwing picks at the Texans for him without knowing where this is going. Just too big of a risk.
I agree with that. And I do want to say real quick as well, if you have Deshaun Watson, or not if you have Deshaun Watson, but if you're in a redraft and you're in like a best ball league, I mean, me personally, I'm taking a shot on Deshaun Watson. Like, he's going super, super late, like round 15, right? In fantasy football, you look at guys that you're taking around 15, chances are you're going to drop these people anyways. So why not take a shot on Deshaun Watson, where if he plays this season, you have a top 5 back in fantasy football. So whether you want to take the moral high ground because of the whole accusations and everything, that's totally up to you. Me personally, I don't give a shit. I don't care. I don't have a moral compass when it comes to fantasy football. I want to win. So we'll see what happens with Deshaun Watson, but I agree with you. I don't see a team giving up that much right now for such a big question mark where he could play the fourth season or in a week he could be in jail. Like,
Yeah.
that's how it is. So we'll see what happens. Let's get into the buy and sell segment here. So we have a couple buy and sells. Obviously, you know this, the name of the game. Buying this, are you selling it? So the first one is going to be Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill, well, with the whole Michael Thomas injury, it's being reported that Taysom Hill is the favorite now to win this starting job. Are you buying or selling these rumors?
I am 100% selling personally because I believe Taysom Hill is really only going to be as effective if he's just coming into the game in certain plays. He might be coming in a lot more often than he normally would, but I personally think that, they're going to go out there with Jameis. So I just think personally he's going to be a better thrower. He may not make the best decisions, but I think under Sean Payton and that coaching staff, they've been able to put quarterbacks in good positions to be successful. I think they will do that with Jameis. He's been there for a year, knows the playbook, has sat under Drew Brees and learned from him. I think it is his turn. I think he gives them the best chance to win football games. If they're losing an entire football game and they can't run the ball, I don't want Taysom Hill back there throwing the ball 40 times. I would much rather have Jameis,
Right.
even if he does throw the 3 picks. That's just how I feel. I would much rather have Taysom Hill still coming in third, first, second down whenever he does, doing a read option here and there, and having Jameis, take controls. I think that's going to be the best recipe for success for the Saints this year, and I personally think that's what they need to do.
I agree with you there. I'm selling. I don't think that Taysom Hill is personally any good, quite honestly, as a quarterback. He's a good gadget player. He's essentially like a Tim Tebow, okay? Um, he might be a little bit of a better passer than Tim Tebow, but Jameis Winston gives them the best chance to win. And I don't think that Michael Thomas really has an effect on that. Like, I think that Jameis Winston will be fine. Obviously, Michael Thomas is a big void there, but I think that Sean Payton's just a good enough offensive-minded coach to still get it done with a quality quarterback who Jameis is no scrub. This was a first overall draft pick in the what year was that? 2016, 2017 NFL draft? I don't even remember what draft was.
15 or 16, I want to
Yeah,
say.
so yeah, I mean, he's no scrub. Yes, he may make some poor decisions at times, but I also think that that was a Bucks team that had a terrible defense that year. They were passing the ball a shit ton, and he just had a. He's a gunslinger. I think Sean Payton's able to reel him in a little bit, and he doesn't make as many bad decisions, and he's just a far superior talent, in my opinion. So let's talk the next one. Do you buy that Ben Roethlisberger was on a stricter? I actually just saw something about this today, but do you buy that Ben Roethlisberger had a stricter diet than Tom Brady?
Uh, no, he might be drinking icy light instead of regular ice. No, personally, I think he looks exactly the same as he did last year. I don't really. I mean, I haven't seen him in person or anything like that. So he's in shape, really good shape compared to what he's always played at. He needs to at this age, but there ain't no way.
Stricter diet? No. I did see there. He had an interview today, and he said somebody actually asked him this question, and he said, my camp is like my wife, my trainer, my agent. So, and I know it didn't come out from any of those people, so I don't know who you guys are talking to. So, no, he wasn't on a stricter diet. I do think that he looks a little bit slimmer than what he has in the past. He's just gotten that way throughout his career now. Like, I feel like he kind of takes it a little bit more serious, and I do think that how the season ended, seeing Marquise Pouncey go, David DeCastro, like his guys, I think he is a little bit more motivated than he would be any other season because this is possibly the last season for Ben. We'll see what happens. He's kind of left the door open, so has Colbert, but we'll see what happens. So, but I don't believe that he was on a stricter diet than Tom Brady. Yeah, that dude's an animal.
I kind of just thought of this going back to our first topic with Aaron Rodgers. How hilarious would it be if Kirk Cousins just shits the bed and the Vikings you're similar to like Brett Favre, how he
Brett Favre him? That would be insane. Maybe the Detroit Lions, although they're really far off. I don't want to imagine him.
Goff's contract too kind of makes it a little difficult, I want to say.
Yeah.
Which the Colts could run the same similar situation because I think Carson Wentz is still but
I don't know if he technically I think so, but I don't know if they actually have any I think that they can just get rid of I don't know if they have technically the dead money. I think Philadelphia has the dead money. So I don't think that there's any stipulation I don't know. I don't know if NFL contracts that well. I'd have to look it up.
I think you're right though. They could probably cut him and not really have any penalty for it.
Yeah. So I'll have to look into that. So, next question here. With the not so recent news, you have Cam Akers, unfortunately, tearing his Achilles, rupturing his Achilles, which is RIP Cam Akers. Love them a lot in fantasy this upcoming season. But do you view Darrell Henderson as a top 20 back in fantasy football for this upcoming season?
So this was definitely one of the tougher ones when I was looking at the buy and sell segment we were going to be discussing. I personally had all three Rams running backs on my fantasy roster last year, and it was a fucking nightmare because I never know who to start, and I would start Malcolm Brown, but then Henderson would go off, well, then I would start Henderson, and then Malcolm Brown would score 2 goal line touchdowns, and it was just like you never know what you're getting from the Rams backfield, especially when they don't have Cam Akers. Like Cam Akers was going to be their guy. He's going to get 3 downs. Like they drafted him high to do that. So like I was really confident in him for sure. But now we're back to this. I think they're going to be going to, they're going to be using a couple of different guys. I feel like it's going to be very similar. And I just start thinking too about Matthew Stafford. Are they going to be throwing the ball more? It is really hard. Top 20, maybe he's top, maybe he's 15 to 20 in that range. Sure. I think he's just going to be a tough play. Personally, I'm going to probably stay away from the Rams backfield after what they put me through last year. But I don't know. It's a really tough call. I would say, 20 might be around that range where he's at. So, it's a tough pick for sure. high upside because I want to say he was a higher draft pick, wasn't he? Third round,
Yeah,
somewhere
he
around.
was in the third round. Yeah.
And he's pretty solid. So like, I know there might not be depth behind him, but
Hmm.
I mean, I know they have guys that they like and that they're going to give reps to, because obviously, you lose a player like Cam Akers and what he was, said he was going to be this year. It sucks. So, but I
Yeah.
think they brought in a couple of guys. They drafted a guy in the 6th round. I mean, why not give him snaps too? But you're kind of getting from Daryl Henderson already. So I think they're gonna go, they're gonna use a couple different guys throughout the whole game this year. It's gonna be really hard to play him.
I I'll say that the one thing that I'm definitely like nervous about, and I don't feel comfortable drafting him as like a top 20 guy currently. Like there's a couple guys that are going in his range, like Chris Carson's going right around there, and like even a David Montgomery. Like I just feel better drafting those guys, but I if there's no surprise cuts like last year with like a Leonard Fournette, that I think this team would heavily pursue somebody like that if there's a cut. One guy that I think is right on the bubble, like a Royce Freeman, could definitely be cut, and I could imagine them going out and getting him. And then I do think that there's more of an even split between like him and Royce Freeman. But as the roster currently stands, I just don't feel like they're going to go with the backfield that they have right now into the season. But in the off chance that they do, then I do think that Daryl Henderson is easily a top 20 back, because last year he was kind of their goal line back. This team runs the ball a shit ton around the goal line. So that's going to be very good for him. And also, this running back for a Rams offense is just somebody that is really good. They're pretty efficient as well. I mean, Todd Gurley at the end of his career wasn't that efficient, but that's also because, playing on
No,
like one leg. So but the Rams running back under Sean McVay is extremely good. So we'll see how camp shakes out, though, because he needs to make it through camp. But I will say the last thing, that there's one positive. Sean McVay said he's not getting a single snap in preseason. So that shows to me that obviously he wants to keep him healthy. Like this is his guy. But if there's no surprise cut during camp, then I do feel good about it. But if there is, we'll have to see who it is.
yeah, they
So
cannot afford to lose him in
no,
pre.
no,
And this will also give him an opportunity to look at those other guys that are behind him as
true.
well, and lots of reps and get them ready to be able to come in and at least contribute a little bit. So it's a good
True.
plan.
So last one here. Are you going to buy or sell? This is on FanDuel Sportsbook. Currently, Patrick Mahomes is the favorite to win the MVP, plus 500. I don't know if you've looked at other MVP candidates, but would you buy or sell Patrick Mahomes at plus 500 for the MVP coming season?
I would buy that. He is just insane. Like, I don't know. Like, they have completely revamped that offensive line to what it was in the Super Bowl.
That's
I mean,
true.
that's how you have to beat him, is basically just knock his ass on the ground like the Buccaneers did
Yeah.
for but I thought this was pretty funny how it took the Chiefs like that one game to realize, like, wow, Patrick Mahomes is this incredible talent. We have to make sure that this is not happening to him. How do you think Russell Wilson feels?
True.
This dude has been getting destroyed. I think the John Schneider just thinks like Russell Wilson's just better running around and making plays, so he's not going to pay any money to protect him anyway.
Yeah.
But they've changed a lot with that offensive line, the Chiefs, and I think he's just poised for a massive year again. Like I'm seeing at least. I mean, it would not shock me whatsoever if he's throwing 50 touchdowns again.
I'll say I'm gonna sell this, but I would say, like, if there's a favorite, obviously he should be the favorite because he's the best quarterback in the NFL. But there's one guy that the better in me would just say I'd rather buy this guy, and I believe he's at plus 1,900 or plus 1,400, is Kyler Murray. And Kyler Murray was on pace to possibly be the MVP last season, and then he ended up getting hurt and just wasn't quite the same player anymore. So I think that that's one player that I would probably buy into for the MVP just because the odds are better. And I do think that he has a decent shot to get there. But if there is a favorite, then sure, it should be Patrick Mahomes, because this team, like you said, revamped the offensive line. They got Travis Kelce, like the best player, I believe, at his position in the NFL. And he creates such an advantage for this team that no other team has in the NFL. Possibly the Raiders, but then they don't have the Tyreek Hill player. So, and you don't have Patrick Mahomes back there. So, but He's like the single best player at his position by a large number right now. So, and extremely consistent. So, at this part, okay, let's go ahead and let's talk some Steelers. Okay, now this is also fantasy football related as well. It's not totally just Steelers talk. A couple of these questions will be probably just Steelers talk, but the first one here is fantasy football. So current ADP for these Steelers wide receivers on Underdog best ball draft. Currently you have Deontay Johnson going 50th, which is wide receiver number 25. Chase Claypool, wide receiver number 29, which is 58th. And then Juju Smith-Schuster comes in as wide receiver number 40, 79th overall. Do you agree with that order? Do you think that really Juju Smith-Schuster is wide receiver number 40 in fantasy football this upcoming
season? No, I think he should definitely be. I'll give the argument for Deontay Johnson because I can't remember the specific numbers, but he was, from what I was looking, he was, I don't know, and I don't really know how they calculate this, but he was like fourth or fifth in the NFL in terms of creating separation on routes, like behind dudes like Stephon Diggs and these top names. The dude just couldn't catch a cold if he tried.
True.
Like, he is a great route runner, and he's dangerous after the catch. He's very shifty and elusive. And I do think Ben likes throwing to him. He did, lead the Steelers in a lot of targets in a lot of games that he did play last year. So I will make that. But, I mean, for me, Juju's got to be a close two. He's playing outside this year. I think that might even get him more looks, depending on how everything's going in the middle. The biggest thing with the Steelers is that intermediate passing game this year. It wasn't there last year at all. And a lack of run game did not help that. So I think Juju really will help them in that specific category. And Steelers' success is really going to depend on whoever is making plays in that area of the field. So I would definitely put Juju over Chase, just because I feel like Chase, he's just going to rely on making a big play to be productive in fantasy. He may get 3 or 4 catches, but you never know. He may score a 60-yard touchdown one week, and next week he might have 30 receiving yards. So
right.
He's more of, a harder start for me than Juju would be, because Juju's going to be going in as the Steelers number 1 for sure.
I'll say I agree. It is close between Chase and Juju, but I definitely don't think Juju should be wide receiver number 40. I just think that's crazy. Like, so I do agree that Deontay Johnson is, in my opinion, the best wide receiver on this team. Deontay Johnson reminds me, and I hate to compare him to this person because it's not a fair comparison, but like Antonio Brown. If he could just catch the damn ball, like he would be Antonio Brown-esque, because he's not a big guy. He's a smaller guy. I mean, he's like 5'10", like $180 maybe. But the guy can separate, like you said. The dude is a phenomenal route runner. Ben gets him the ball. He needs to hold on to the ball. He needs to catch the ball. But Juju, for me, is just somebody like, that's Ben's guy. Like, yes, Deontay's Ben's guy, but like when there's a big play, like a 3rd down and 5, usually Ben is looking for Juju, like across the middle, like you said. That's Ben's go-to guy in those situations. In the red zone, he's actually very good as well. With Ben, he hasn't scored under 7 touchdowns with Ben at the helm. So, like, this is just a guy that produces. And some of the things, like one of the things I did see is, like you said, Deontay Johnson's 4th best. Actually, last year, Juju was one of the worst wide receivers in terms of separation on his routes. But to me, it doesn't really matter because just Ben trusts the shit out of Juju, and Juju gets it done. Like, people can say, oh, TikTok, whatever, but he gets it done. And I think that this team is actually going to pass more than what people are expecting them to. I think that they're going to definitely run the ball for sure. I mean, when you run the ball as little as they did last year, obviously like Mike Tomlin said last year, when you're the worst team at running the football, the only option is up. So, yes, they're going to run the football more, but this is still Big Ben. I know he's late in his career, but he's a gunslinger at heart. And I don't believe that they're going to just limit Ben and not tell him what to do. I don't think they're going to be able to. He's going to be the guy. They're still going to throw the football. So let's go ahead into the next one. And this is where we get into just some Steelers talk here. We've been talking Steelers, but do you see Big Ben retiring at the end of the season? If you had to bet, your money, place your money on one side. Which side are you going to bet?
I think he will retire. Personally, I think this is as a Steelers fan. I'm going to try to go as many games as I can this year because I think it's his last ride. You know, just the way that this offseason kind of was after they lost, it was kind of like, they didn't hear from him for a while and whatnot. It was just like unclear. And then, I think he just is going to honor his last. Believe this is his final year of his contract.
Yeah. Mhm.
So I think he just honors that. I think he plays one more season and gives it his all. Um, it's going to be interesting though. It's really just going to matter how well the team is playing and how well he's playing. But I think this is his final ride.
If I had to say yes or no, I'll bet no because I do think that he's definitely left the door open. I don't think he truly wants to be done. Like I don't. I think he wants to keep playing, and as long as I do think that the Steelers are going to be better than what people anticipate this upcoming season. Um, sure they lost a couple of pieces, but really they have good young guys to take like that next step and replace these people like they've been grooming. And that's something that the Pittsburgh Steelers do very well. They groom their young talent. They don't really sign a bunch of free agents. They're very good at developing young talent. So I think that the people that they have to replace these other guys, like your Bud Dupree with and they also signed Melvin Ingram, but with Alex Highsmith, you have Cam Sutton, and you have these young offensive linemen that they are ready. Your Banner that got hurt last year, right? You have your Chucks, I believe he's ready, and you can't get much worse than the people that they had. Like, sure, Bud Dupree was good, but your offensive line, like those guys were bad last year. De Castro, like
Yeah,
it's fallen off.
Right, and it was a mobility issue with his
Yeah,
ankle, and he did that going, and it just speaks for itself that he just decided to retire. He didn't just try to get surgery and try to play through it and all this other stuff. He looked at his overall health and said it wasn't worth it. He probably thought it wasn't going to make that much of a difference. And you look at that, and you look back the last couple of years, and you understand kind of like why his play dropped off. I'm a little worried that Trey Turner is going to be the same story. His mobility is really what's been making him, decrease in his play. I mean, he's like a 5-time Pro Bowler, more Pro Bowls than DeCastro's made.
uh-huh.
My girlfriend's dad's a Chargers fan, and he told me lots and lots of penalties last year when he did play. Like holding, just wasn't in a good position to make a block.
Uh-huh.
And because his groin was bothering him and hampering him from being as mobile as what he used to be. Now he says he's healthy and he feels good. I pray to God he's right, and we get a pretty solid. Like he has the potential to be our best lineman if he can play that well. But I mean, I think it's a kind of a big if. I don't really know what we're going to be getting from him. I feel like he could be our best lineman or our worst. So
No, I agree with that. And but I also don't think that it can get much worse than what they had last year, like from DeCastro. It just can't. Like, yeah, he might not be as good as he once was, but I believe anything, like you said, mobility, especially for a guard that last year they would pull a lot, like, and they just couldn't do that at the end of the season because he couldn't move. And you didn't see that anymore. Like, that's why they just didn't run the ball anymore. Is you have two guys on that line, and even Pouncey, he was not the same
they
player.
pulled him a lot too, and that's really impressive for a center to do. And they just, the fact that they just didn't do it anymore just
Yeah,
shows that
those guys. So I personally think that Ben comes back next year because I do think that the Steelers team is going to be better than what people anticipate, and I think that as long as this team is okay, I believe that he'll come back, and I we'll see what Dwayne Haskins looks like as well, because I do think that they hope he could possibly be their ticket here, their golden ticket where they don't actually have to draft somebody, they can groom somebody, but we'll see. So
yeah, strip clubs in Pittsburgh suck, so he's in good hands. Here's a guy, the Steelers, not to sound like Chris Collinsworth theirs, but back in the day, there was this quarterback for the Lions that was taken early, like second round. His name was Charlie Batch. Maybe they found their next Charlie Batch.
he was solid for a few years there, especially when Ben got hurt and he come in.
He
He'd be good.
reliable enough to at least win them a game and lead
And now
them.
does he call the games? Is that what Charlie Batch is doing, or he's like
He
after
does. He works
like
for the
the talk
Steelers.
show?
he'll definitely, he has his talk show. I bet he'll call some preseason games if I had to guess. But yeah, I'm pretty sure he does work for the Steelers.
All right. And our last question here. Right now, Vegas has the Steelers win total at 8.5. Are you taking the over or the under? And the juice is actually plus 100 on the over. So, better odds than I think. I don't know what it is for the under. I think it's like maybe 150 on the, or minus 150 on the under. So they think that possibly they're going to be under 8.5. So how do you feel about that? Which one are you taking?
Yeah, so I'm gonna go the over here. Try not to be biased or anything, but I think the Steelers are a 10-win football team. Do take in fact that there is an extra game this year, but I just think when you're looking at the AFC North, there's going to be 3 teams in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Bottom line, it's just how it is. With the Ravens and Browns, with their rosters looking so far. But the NFL is so unpredictable. It's a game of health. So the healthiest team is going to do the best. But I'd like to see the Steelers, over that 9-10 game win margin. I think 10 is their number if I had to put
And if they have 8, that means that that's their first losing season under Mike Tomlin ever. So if I'm a betting man, I'm definitely going over as well, because I also look at this roster and they have, I saw something today that Ben is the oldest player on the offense by 10 years, over 10 years. So, like, this is a young roster. Like, this isn't old. I know that Ben Roethlisberger is old, but, like, there are some older guys on the defense. But really, this is a pretty young roster with, and I know that they lost Bud Dupree, but now they're getting back Devin Bush. And I know that they did lose Steven Nelson, which, honestly, I was pretty disappointed by that, but still they have plenty of players. You still have your whole offensive line. Now you have Melvin Ingram coming in, like I said. Like, I just don't think that this defense is going to be one of the best defenses in the NFL again. And then you have a guy like Najee Harris, a young offensive line. You sign Trey Turner. Like, there's potential here that this team isn't that far off from what they were last year. Like, they're really not. The roster is basically the same minus a couple of players. And then you have just younger guys who have another year under the belt and a full off season as well. Where last year, I did see something Ben said as well. Last year, he threw like thousands of balls before the start of the season because he was trying to get his arm right. Now, this year, he hasn't thrown nearly as many balls, so his arm is fresher than what it was last year. So I think that's also very good for the Steelers as well. So
yeah, they aren't going to win games if he's throwing the ball 50 times.
No, definitely not.
Like, they need to look at that now, or from last year, and like, if it's happening again, they have to reevaluate. They did not adjust at all last season, and teams just caught on to what they were doing. And
yeah,
you put anybody back behind center when the defense knows what's coming. Like, you're going to struggle. Like, it is what it is. So.
And what they need to do this year too, I'll say this last thing is, you signed him, use Derek Watt, man. Like, put that guy, the fullback, in there, and now you got a first round talent running back, the best running back in this draft class. Use him, give him a blocker in front, and just run the shit out of the football this upcoming season. Be the old Pittsburgh Steelers team, smash mouth football, December football, where you put yourself in a really good position. Like you said, don't make Ben throw the ball 40, 50 times, because if that's the case, then definitely not. They'll probably be like right around 900. I feel like they'll still win 9 games. They'll lose 8 probably. If that's the case, I think that they have enough talent for that. But if they can be a lot more balanced than what they were last year, then this team, I honestly do think, can be pretty solid and be a playoff team, like maybe a wild card team for
sure. I agree.
So with that being said, thanks, Ben, for coming on. It's been a pleasure, dude, talking some Steelers football, talking fantasy football. You'll be back next week, right?
Yeah, I'm every Tuesday, every Wednesday, whenever we want to do this, I'm down.
So thank you for being a part of the show. Thank you all for watching and hanging out with us. We appreciate it. If you don't like some of our takes, let us know down in the comments below. Maybe you agree with some of the stuff we said. Let us know. So thank you all for watching, and have a great day.